Morning, everyone. I am coming to you with the introduction to a series on triggers and processing our own traumas that come up from them. I figured the best way to do that in this video was to walk you through re-triggering myself. So I had a situation, an experience about 2-ish weeks ago that really put me back into a place of feeling unsafe. And what I'm going to do here is intentionally go back to that and walk you through the activities and the steps that I used to de-escalate and settle myself. These are a combination of strategies that target body-based interventions, feeling-based interventions, and thought-mind-based interventions. I have some notes and I have the list of strategies that I used that day to get back to a sense of calm. This is going to be live. I'm not going to have graphics up. We're just going to be in conversation. So I might get to them all. I might not. I might try different things just depending on what my body, mind, and feelings are telling me. I do want to caution if you are triggered easily by seeing other people talk about or share about their traumas, then maybe don't watch this right now, or watch this in a time when you feel more settled. This is going to also involve interactions with the police, which can be very triggering for people in brown and black bodies. So just word of caution, I don't ever want to cause harm or trauma to anyone. I just figured that this might be a good way to show people sort of my experience, my process, and lead into the series of videos that I'm going to produce for you going forward. Again, I'm doing this because I have a lot of experience both helping other people settle through my years in the education system and training in different healing modalities. I have a lot of personal experience with trauma, and I am going to be as open and vulnerable as I can so that you can see that this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it sounds like, and these are some things that we can do to try to move forward, because we are the greatest healers that we know. Our bodies have tremendous capacity to be upset and to be harmed by the environment and by what we carry. We also have the capacity to heal. So I'm feeling a little agitated just thinking about what I'm going to share. There's that anticipation and that anxiety about it. So I'm going to dive in and set the context. So a couple of weeks ago, right before Christmas, my family from the Bay Area was coming down to visit. They hadn't seen us in San Diego yet. They hadn't been to our new house. I was really excited. My mom, my stepdad were going to be there. It was going to be my aunt, my uncle, my cousin. My wife and I were going to entertain and really like show them like, hey, like welcome them into our home for the first time. And we love them. They always bring down jam. They bring the holiday spirit. They're incredible gift givers. They're just lovely human beings, and I feel fortunate to have them in my life. And so they were going to be here for lunch. I realized around like 11:30, I hadn't gotten any food. So my wife and I were like, hey, burritos, right? Let's go get some burritos. So we got in the car and drove down the street to try to get some burritos before they got over to the house. So went to a local restaurant. We're in the drive-thru. And you'll notice that I'm breathing a little bit because I'm already starting to get triggered and think about what happened. We're in the drive-thru. My attention is, do I want a breakfast burrito? And I'm like tasting the bacon and the potatoes and egg in my mouth. I can feel that happening. Or do I want like a carne asada burrito? So we're the next in line to pull up to the cashier's window, and I hear a little bit of commotion behind me, and I see this man, possibly Hispanic, I'm not 100% sure, walking on the side of our car with his hands in the air. Already like, that's really weird. And he's got money in one hand. So I'm a little taken aback. He walks past us and goes into the restaurant. there's yelling 10 seconds later, cursing, screaming really loud behind us. I look in the side view mirror again, and I see a police nightstick, baton, I'm not sure what you call it, come flying over the wall where you would speak into the speaker for the restaurant. And this cop comes tumbling over the wall. He's got his gun out. He's red-faced. He's huffing and puffing. He looks like he wants to just murder someone. He picks up his nightstick. He starts running towards the restaurant with his gun out, finger on the trigger. 2 police SUVs come up in front of us, box us in from where we're at. Those police officers get out with their guns drawn. Another cop car, parks on the street. And I don't know if it was 4 or 5 cops just start yelling and just charge into this restaurant. This is a restaurant that we frequent. I'm starting to get really, really worried for them. It's all Latinx, Hispanic workers. I'm worried about gunshots. I'm worried that they're at risk. I don't know what this guy has done. I'm guessing that's who they're going after. And I'm just hearing all kinds of shouting and yelling, and my body doesn't feel like my own anymore. Not only am I worried about the people inside, I'm having these flashbacks to Rodney King, to Eric Garner, to George Floyd, to Philando Castillo, to just the students that I've taught over the years who have been beaten, have been shot at, and I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe at all. I can feel my heart beating faster. I can feel my pulse in my neck. I don't feel like I'm in my body anymore. I feel like I'm floating a little bit. I don't feel anything in my extremities, like my hands are on the wheel, and I know I'm gripping tightly, but I can't feel anything. So I know I'm in a state of crisis. I know I'm not doing well. And the shouting dies down. The cops bring the man out of the car, throw him on the hood of one of their vehicles, and then just stand in front of our car and start laughing and joking. And I don't know what they're doing, but I am so terrified that something is going to happen to me. That's not a fun place to be. I mean, to feel unsafe. I'm 43 years old and I feel unsafe in my body. And they eventually leave. They take the man with them and they eventually leave. And I'm not sure how I drive home. I don't know. Like, everything feels like a movie. Like, I know I got there. I know that I started to use different grounding strategies to get myself back to just being able to interact with my family. And I share and I talk to them and I have that support there. And I used everything I could think of. I threw every strategy I could at it to try to get myself to a state of calm. So I'm in a better place because time has elapsed. I've used strategies consistently. But right here, right now, I don't feel good. There are a million things racing through my head. My thoughts feel very fast. I think I'm able to articulate this because I've been in situations where I've helped others settle, and I've done a lot of work around being able to talk through my own process. But my head is on fire right now. I'm seeing images of harm. I'm scared. I know that it could be me at any time, which is a sobering thought. There's law enforcement in my family. still don't feel safe, right? I'm half white, but I don't look it. So just knowing my face, my skin tone, my name, all are things that can make me feel othered and unsafe, just exiting my house. So I've got the thoughts going on. I'm feeling all kinds of different things, and my body is not feeling good. Like I notice I've hunched over a lot. I'm not breathing the way I normally do. So these are the things that I'm going to do right now to move myself to a state of calm and settled. So I don't feel my hands, I don't feel my legs, even though my feet are on the ground right now, I should be able to feel them. My hands are clenched, my fingers are clenched on my knees, I can't feel them. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I have a prop, this is what I did then as well, is I'm going to grab a cold compress that I had freezing in the freezer. I'm just going to hold on to it until I can feel something. The cold will eventually bring some sort of feeling into my fingers. It might be the tingling from the cold. There might be pinpricks. There will be some sensation that will occur as I sit here. And I'm already starting to feel some of it. You don't need to use a compress. You could use, like, if you've got any frozen vegetables, anything in the freezer, you can wash your run cold water. Those are the words I'm looking for. Words don't always come to you when you're feeling triggered and in crisis. You can run cold water over them. You can grab ice cubes. These are strategies used in different therapeutic modalities to really come back. And I can feel right now, like I definitely feel my fingers again. So grabbing this, feel my fingers, that's a good sign. I'm starting to come back to my body. I'm starting body up because the body is the one thing that I think we neglect in therapy and in therapeutic modalities when we're trying to get back to the body. There's such a movement with somatic experiencing to really focus on that. So I always start body up. So I've grabbed onto that, starting to feel a little bit more. Now I'm going to start to breathe deeply. And what I'm going to do is track my breath. I'm just going to go with a quick inhalation in through my nose, and I'm going to bring my shoulders up to try to feel that tension. Then I exhale through my mouth and release it. Inhale in through my nose. Just 2 more times. Raise my shoulders, do a shrug like you're at the gym doing a shrug. Exhale and release it all. Inhale through the nose, shrug. Exhale through the mouth and let it go. That's another way I'm starting to feel more of my body. Like the inhalation I can track, and I can feel the sensation of the breath moving in and out. In and out. And I'm going to try to do as many different things as possible to get myself into my body. Now I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to cup them, and I'm going to start to tap and just move my way down my body just to tell myself, hey, you're here in this moment, you're here in this body, all the feelings, all the thoughts, those are still there, and you're going to get to them, and give yourself permission to get to them in a couple minutes. But let's get home in the body first. Let's focus on the body as much as we can. I'm tapping on my legs, starting to wake them up a little bit. Okay. I'm gradually feeling more and more of my body. Like before, I felt like I was a balloon floating up. I'm now starting to feel more in here. I'm noticing my sit bones. I'm noticing that, I can feel my butt. I can feel some of these things. So, okay, I can start to feel my feet a little bit. These are all good signs. Like I'm starting to come back into my body. You're going to see my torso only for a hot second because I'm going to stand up and just move around a little bit. Just stretch, move around. Just another way to sort of wake up the body. I'm going to do a whole video on how to use movement to really come home to present. So just doing that, man, I'm feeling a lot better in my body. I'm starting to become aware of different sensation, different tightness, different looseness, and I'm going to start to track what my body is telling me. Because I want to start to get curious, and I've got enough presence now in my body to start to get curious about what I'm feeling. So this is tracking. This is bringing awareness. I feel some tightness in my chest. I feel some tightness in my shoulders. Okay. Be gentle, and I'm going to open up my awareness to those sensations, and I'm going to start to ask myself, well, what is the story there? Why am I feeling these things? In my chest, I know this is not an old feeling. This is pretty typical when I feel anxiety and I feel stressed, and I get into fight, flight, or freeze. And during this whole experience, both when this happened live and now here, I didn't feel fight, like I didn't want to like rush and do something. I felt freeze, first off. Absolutely shut down, and my body just absolutely shut down 100%. And I wanted to flee. A flight, right? Like I wanted to hide. I felt very small. It's part of the diminishment of feeling powerless, and not feeling like you have a way to navigate forward. So this tightness in my chest is reflective of that. And it's, as I start to look at it, I'm going to start to ask questions. What are you telling me? What are you here for? What do you need, right? What do you need in this tightness? I'm starting to hear, this is an old feeling. This is a very old feeling. This is every time I've seen violence committed. I've read stories about black and brown bodies being violated. I felt unable to protect the people I love or the students that I love and care for. I think it's even older than that. Like I feel like it might even be like some identity work, right? Like this might be feeling othered and, not really feeling like I fit in, like feeling like my name and my skin color don't make me belong anywhere. Feeling left out, feeling just that tension of not knowing where you fit and who you are. And that's old business for me that still echoes, right? And is still things that this is a gentle reminder of things that I need to keep working on going forward. And so I'm just going to dialogue a little with that feeling and just be like, hey, I hear you. I know you are there. You are trying to protect me, and you're telling me that you're that unsafe little boy, and you want me to hear you so that you can feel a little safer. And I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to keep my hand right here. I'm going to tap just gently, just letting that tension know that I've got you. I've got your back. I'm here for you. I'm going to start to breathe into that space. I'm just going to stick with it. Here for you, here to protect you. I'm going to let my awareness go. See if I can find anywhere in my body that feels a little bit safer, a little bit looser, so that I can jump back and forth between these two sensations and pendulate and teach myself that even though there's a spot of me that feels this way, there might be some place of me that feels differently. So I'm going to body scan and start at my head, work my way down, and notice there's still that tension there in the chest. Shoulders are loosening up a little bit. Just note that. And my legs actually feel loose. My legs feel solid and loose. So I'm gonna keep one hand on my chest to keep it secure, and one hand on my legs and just touch it. Okay. I'm gonna hang out here with my legs. I'm gonna hang out and just note. They feel solid. They feel very like tree-like, like my trunks. Like these are keeping me securely to the ground. That's a good sensation, like loose and solid at the same time, like no tension, but just like strength, like you just had leg day, right? And you're feeling all kinds of like, oh, my legs are swollen, just amazing. So hang out with that sensation for a little bit. And know that I have that capacity in my body right now to really feel strong and secure. And I'm going to go back to that tension in my chest. You say hi. I'm still here. I'm with you. Do you need anything? You might get a response, you might not. I'm just going to go back and forth now to the legs, to the chest. And I'm telling my body, I'm going back and forth and pendulating, which is a key part of somatic experiencing. And I'm letting my body know that even though I feel this anxiety, even though I feel these things, there are parts of my body that don't. There are parts of my body that are solid. Going back and forth is going to increase that window of tolerance for some of those stressful experiences. And it's going to let me know that I can hold these different feelings in my body, and I'm okay. I'm okay. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel strong. It's okay to feel any kind of way. In somatic experience, you go to completion, you do a whole bunch of different things. But I want to continue showing you different ways to ground, not just in the body, but in the thoughts and the emotions. So I'm starting to feel a lot more settled in my body. But there's still a lot of emotion. There's still a lot of fear. There's still a lot of anxiety. And I think societally, culturally, I think I wasn't taught to like lean into my feelings or really discuss my feelings or even acknowledge their existence, right? Like it's stifle it, oppress it, be strong, be a man. You know, that's not we don't do that, right? Like we go forward. We always go forward. That's so damaging. I think that's damaged me to my core. Because what I'm feeling, what you feel, what we all feel is true and valid, and it's not about fighting against it. It's not about running from it. It's about walking into it, because it's a component of who we are. So I'm going to walk into these feelings, and I'm going to observe them. So fear. All right, fear is the big one. So I observe, I'm going to look at fear as almost like a separate entity. Like it's part of me, but it's also something I can envision as having its own body, having its own weight, having its own color, its own smell, its own solidity. And I'm as I'm visualizing fear, ridiculous, right? It almost looks like a clown. So it almost looks like a clown. I see you. I see you, fear. I hear you. I know that you're here to protect me, right? Like you are a way to activate my fight, flight, or freeze and to get me out of a dangerous situation. So I know that you are activating now, and you activated a couple weeks ago to protect me. So thank you. Thank you for that, right? Like, I don't know where I'd be without you. Like, you got my back. And I see you. So I'm curious, what do you need from me right now, right? Like what do you really need from me? Is there anything that I can do? I'm just going to wait and see if there's any response. Does anything come up automatically inside of me? It might not. If it does, I'll dialogue. If it doesn't, I'll just hold space, right? I'll hold space for that feeling so that it doesn't feel invalidated. Because if I invalidate a feeling, I invalidate a part of myself. I tell myself, no, that part of you can't exist. And that's not anything I ever want to do, especially with trauma being such an attack on our identity. I don't want us to have diminished, fractured, compartmentalized identities. Like, we are full, we are whole, all of us can be honored, all of us can be acknowledged, and all of us can be seen and loved. So I'm not hearing really anything from fear, so I'm just going to hold space. I'm here for you. You are part of me. You are a part of me that I love. You're a protector. And I'm still not hearing anything back, so what I'm going to do is just say, hey, like, fear, like, I'm here when you want to talk, when you want to dialogue, when you want to come back. We can have that conversation. We can have that conversation. So I'm just going to wait now. Another couple beats. I'm going to ask permission of fear if we can have this conversation later, because I want to get to some of my thoughts, because I know those are still racing. Those are still happening. All right, fear. I'm going to ask you if you'll step into, I'm visualizing another room in my head. If you'll just step here, and then we can resume this conversation later. But I want to give the proper awareness and respect to my thoughts right now. Because my thoughts are usually the hardest thing for me to work with. I'll have another video really going into this, but I deal with ruminations, intrusive thoughts, racing thoughts. This is something that developed later on in my life, and something that I've dedicated a lot of time to working with. So my thoughts are going all over the place. I'm not good enough to protect people I love. I'm not safe. I'm scared. I'm a little boy. They're all negative right now. Much like with the feelings, the initial reaction is to fight against them, to run from them, or to try to come up with a different thought for every thought that comes up, or come up with 5 different thoughts for every thought that comes up. And that's a lot of energy, and that then ties you into spinning around with these thoughts. No, my thoughts exist. They're another protective device, right? Like, they're another way, like, if they're overwhelming and there's a ton of them, they're probably trying to protect you and have you isolate and withdraw from a situation that they deem harmful. So they're here, they're doing their thing. And I have a very active imagination, so visualization is a great technique for me. And so what I'm going to do is, as they come up, start to track them. And I'm seeing them come up from the left side of my head and move to the right. And seeing them in different ways. Some of them look like they're floating on a river. And I'm seeing them. I'm telling them, like, I see you. I hear you. You're there. You're trying to protect me. I see you. I hear you. Say what you got to say. Complete whatever thought you need to get out. I hear you. I see you. They're like these little, almost like leaves just floating. And some of them, as they're floating, they're turning into balloons, and they're floating up in the air. And they're just meandering. They're reminding me of the hot air balloons that we can sometimes see off our back deck. They're just there. They're just there. Very similarly to the feelings, I'm going to be an observer to this experience. Like I'm a human having a human experience. We all have thoughts. They all race. They all do different things. And I'm just going to put a little distance between them coming up and my reaction to them. Seeing them, and as I'm visualizing and seeing them manifest themselves, I'm able to sit back in my chair. I'm able to relax a little bit and sort of just let them be. The other thing that I'm going to do is that as thoughts come up, can't control them. They are what they are. What I can do is if they start to gain steam, if they start to get unmanageable, I can control my behavior, right? So this thought could be just nagging, telling me I'm no good, telling me all of the different ways in which I am unsafe. I can choose to do something different, right? And so I can start to associate a positive behavior when these trigger. So for me, I can smile. I can think to the TikTok that my wife showed me right before I started doing this, which was this guy doing voices for his cats, and his cats wanted to sacrifice him, which I think my cat, Mr. Miyagi, probably wants to do to me at some point. So I can smile, right? I have sage spray. I can spray it because it always makes me feel good. I choose to do those things. Once I end this video, I can choose to text a family member. I'm going to do a little drawing. I'm not a great artist, but I can choose to do a little drawing. And those are contrary actions. Those are opposite actions. Those come from cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a bunch of different things that I'll get into more about intrusive thoughts in that series. But for right now, I'm going to check in with my experience. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm feeling more in my body. I'm feeling more in my mind. I'm feeling more in tune with my feelings, right? Like I'm feeling more embodied. I'm feeling more like myself. And I know that like these triggers could come up anytime. This trauma could come up anytime. And this is a very, not extreme, that's not the word, but it's a very heavy example. Like triggers can come up through the day. Someone's voice, a coworker's voice can remind you of an unpleasant experience, right? Work can get overwhelming and trigger different sensations and feelings. Driving, traffic, being on Zoom all day, the constant fighting in the news, right? The more lockdowns looming, like all of these things can trigger. We're all susceptible to them. We're living through this time in our lives where trauma is everywhere, right? We all have our own traumas. We're all exposed to the trauma of others, so we take it on. We're all empathetic. We're all feeling creatures. We take it on. It's secondary or vicarious. There's this collective cascading trauma that's all around us. Like we plug into different devices, different apps, and trauma's being broadcast everywhere. So we're not bystanders, we're engaged in the process, and these videos are going to be hopefully a way for you to see that there are different therapeutic modalities that you can engage in. You don't necessarily, I would encourage everybody to go to therapy if they can. Therapy is a huge, wonderful tool. I know that the medical profession is understaffed There's probably a long wait time to get into therapy in some cases at this point. I would encourage people that need additional resources to reach out to me. I can help you, especially in the United States and California in particular. But there are a ton of resources online. And I want to start having a dialogue. I know that it's very easy in this connected state that we're in to share our traumas with one another and spread our traumas. And I'm seeing that so much, especially among young folks who are in different social networks and are showing up and in a place where maybe resources don't exist or maybe there's not skilled facilitation or moderation. So spaces exist and trauma is shared without necessarily a plan for how to process it, how to ground, how to recover. So please, in the comments, leave me different ways that I can support you. This is the work that my life revolves around. This is the work that I do in my own life. This is the work that I do with children and with school staffs. This is the work that I'm researching as a PhD student. My life is about how we can work with trauma, how we can process it, and how we can build connections and communities that sustain us, because it's out there. Triggers are a huge thing. PTSD and complex PTSD are very real, and there's still stigma around getting help. There's still stigma around a lot of the different ways that we have available to us to grow and to learn from this. So I'm feeling like I'm in a better place. Hopefully I didn't trigger the absolute hell out of you all, and hopefully this was a little bit helpful and informative as I end this practice today. I'm just going to sort of seal this session. This was a session for me too. This was a healing session for me. And I'm just going to tap on my chest, because that's one of those things, like drumming has always been such a very healing thing for me. I have a drum set inside, and we'll do some videos on music and drumming. And I'm just going to tell myself my mantra for today. Even though I felt scared and unsafe in my body, I worked through it and showed great strength. Even though I felt scared and unsafe in my body, I worked through it and showed great strength. Even though I can be triggered and relive traumas, I have the skills and support to calm and settle myself. Even though I can be triggered and relive traumas, I have the skills and support to calm and settle myself. I'm a healer, and I am healing. I am a healer, and I am healing. I'm here in this moment. I'm here right now with each and every one of you. May today be about love. May today be about growth. May today be about understanding a little bit more about ourselves and the people around us. I look forward to connecting with you. If there's anything you ever need, just reach out. Bye, friends.